Hi, I am Jerrica Dodd, and I'm a pharmacist, and I have been for 23 years. And I am the founder and CEO of Your Pharmacy Advocate and the executive editor of Pharmacist magazine. Well, I believe in this world of healthcare in the United States that every patient needs an advocate. I had the fortune of walking alongside both of my parents during their health journey, and I got to see them as patients as well as my parents, and they needed an advocate. They did not know what questions to ask. They didn't know. My mother could not even ask questions for herself, and so I found myself with my father's cancer diagnosis and my mother's triple bypass heart surgery and resulting dementia, being their advocate, helping them when they went for doctor's appointments. And then 5 years ago, I actually had brain surgery, and I found myself being an advocate from my hospital bed, having conversations with the nurses and the physicians in the hospital, and they took very good care of me. However, everyone needs a pharmacist. And so I found myself advocating for myself even from my own hospital bed. And I remember saying to my father, when I get out of here and I get well, I'm going to build something to help patients, to help people. Because I believe that people need someone to ask the questions for them or tell them what questions to ask, because I feel that most people in our country are not in charge of their own health. They leave their health up to doctors, spouses, adult children. And I believe that we all need to be in charge of our health. So that's what I do as an advocate in the pharmacy space. So when I think about the days leading up to brain surgery, there are many that I don't remember, because my story really isn't that I had brain surgery, it's that I didn't prioritize myself. So I had symptoms of my condition for 13 years before I ever had surgery. And that boggles my mind to think about it, because I'm a healthcare professional. And I think about the days that I feel like I describe it like if you've ever been to the county fair and they have that whack-a-mole game and the moles are popping up out of the hole and you have that mallet and you're beating them. That's how I was handling my health. So if something would crop up, just hit it down, go to the doctor, hit it down, keep going. Because from a very early age, I thought that my job was to please people. And I thought that it was my job to make them happy. I had adopted a performance-based value of my worthiness. And so as long as I was achieving and keeping people happy, they'd be happy with me, and ultimately I'd be happy. And so that's how I missed 13 years of symptoms. Yeah, I fainted and I went to the doctor and they checked it out and they couldn't figure out anything and they sent me on my way. However, there were so many symptoms. Like when I think about it and I look around, there were so many things that happened that it was like, oh my gosh, I am so grateful that I'm walking and talking and I'm sitting here in a chair versus a wheelchair, because I was on my way to being paralyzed and I had no idea. So when I think about the days leading up to the surgery, I had not headaches, but pain, like pressure. That's how I would describe it. I had this pressure in my head, and I used to feel like if I had a little valve that I could like relieve the pressure, and I always felt better when I traveled in an airplane. So in addition to this head pressure that I felt all the time that I wish I could just open the valve and relieve, I also had really like crazy stuff happen. Like they thought I had multiple sclerosis, because one day I woke up and I just couldn't walk on one of my legs, like just couldn't. So, emergency room, crutches, nobody could find anything wrong. And then probably the most embarrassing to me from that time was urinary incontinence. So when my brain got the signal that I needed to go to the restroom, there was no time to get there. So it caused me to adjust my life and always looking for where's the restroom, how far will it take me to get there, like everywhere I went. And I used to travel at that time. So if you can imagine me on a plane and my whole thought process was like, okay, do I have, like, can I wait till we land? Do I need to try? Oh my gosh, we can't get up, seatbelt signs up, like, because I was constantly trying to avoid that embarrassment of urinary incontinence. And so just symptom after symptom after symptom. And I was going to doctors and basically, they're giving me a prescription. Nobody really knew what was going on. And it wasn't until I took charge of my own health and decided I've got to find out what's wrong with me. I'm too young to have all of these things happening, and no one seems to be invested in solving this puzzle, so I've got to do it. So literally, I became the CEO of my health, and I decided who I needed on my healthcare team to let's get to the bottom of this. So fast forward, I tapped into an entirely different healthcare system, Johns Hopkins in Maryland, because I couldn't get what I needed in Atlanta, and got there, got some more information, came back to Atlanta, found who it was that I needed to be on my healthcare team. Before you know it, from the ophthalmologist, because I developed glaucoma and all of that, and African Americans in their fourth decade of life don't generally develop glaucoma, so I was just this anomaly that nobody knew what to do with. So I came back and I found the ophthalmologist that I needed, who in turn got me in front of the neurologist that I needed, who in turn got me in front of the neurosurgeon that I needed. And so when I think about all of that happening, I'm like, I had to take charge. I had to go, I'm too young. I can't, keep running around peeing. And so literally, I took charge of my own health and got in front of the right practitioners until the neurosurgeon said, you need to have brain surgery. And that day that he said that, it was in March, I think March of 2016. And I sat there and I thought I was having an intellectual conversation about my options. Never mind, he had only given me one. But I was like, well, what happens if I don't do it? And he says, you'll be paralyzed. And I'm still in my mind thinking like, I don't have time to do this. I'm too busy. I had just started a new job. My parents, they had their health concerns. I was on the ministry leadership team for my church and very involved there. That was like another, job, if you will. And so I was just like, there's no way, I can't do it. I don't have time to have surgery and be out for 8 weeks. No way. And so I said to him, well, you know what? I'm just like bargaining, thinking I'm bargaining with him, but I'm really bargaining with myself, because how dare I go take care of my health, even though I know what the alternative could be. And he said, I said to him, how long do I have? ... How long do I have until I'm paralyzed? Because I believe if he had said, oh, well, you'll be paralyzed on June 1st, then on May the 31st, I would have been like, let's do it. Like, I was willing to push it because I was so involved in being supportive to my parents and their health, dedicated employee, loyal church member. How long do I have to put myself on the back burner before I become paralyzed and change my life forever? And I can't even believe now that I asked him that, because that's crazy. And so he looked at me and he said, Miss Dodd, I don't know how long you have. I mean, obviously you've made it 40 plus years, but I can't tell. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how long you have. And I said, well, my job has a week shutdown in August. This was March when we're talking. And I go, they have a shutdown in August, so maybe it'll be good then. And he just looked at me like, okay. So I came to my senses. I had surgery in April that year. I did not wait till August. But when I think about the reasons why, that's why I say my story is not about brain surgery. My story is about that I did not prioritize me. I wasn't even in my own equation for my life. And that brings tears to my eyes. I wasn't part of the equation. I didn't factor in. It was everybody else. What do you want? Where do you want me to be? What do you want me to do? I just thought about this the other day, and I think it was definitely with well wishes, but I think about when I graduated from my master's degree, and my dad said, you need to buy a house. I never once thought, well, do I want a house? Well, what is it? It was like I just did what I was told. And like I said, I think that was definitely well-meaning advice, and had a house for years now. But when I think about the journey that I was on, it wasn't my journey. It was what society, what family, what people in general expected of me. And so in that regard, it was a different life. Well, after brain surgery, I went right back to making sure everybody else was happy, even though I'd had that monumentous occasion in my life. And my health called again. Ring, we're not done. I'm like, for real? I had brain surgery. What more do you want from me? Twice they opened up the back, or 2 surgeries, they opened up the back of my head. So I started falling asleep while I was driving. And I do not have narcolepsy. And again, no one could figure it out. So I didn't even hear that. Okay, I'll say that again. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to cry.
Yeah, Matt was like, his eyes were actually drying. He was so bored with it. I don't know why outside this guy was. He was yelling halfway through. He was like, I think that's what happened. I don't know.
Well, you're causing me to really sit, and I tell my story all the time, but I'm sitting I'm not telling it in passing. I'm sitting in the middle of it and thinking about wow, that was crazy. I mean, that man looked at me, Dr. Barrow, he was like, you'll be paralyzed. I was like, well, how long do I have? And he's looking at me. I guess he was like, Jesus, woman. And he said to me, he said, your case is what, I have, the best way to describe it is I had this space in my spinal cord, and your spinal cord's not very big. There's not a lot of space for anything else but the nerves that run through there. And he was like, you've got one of the biggest syrinx, is what it's called. He's like, you've got one of the biggest syrinxes that we've ever seen. And I'm sitting here going, well, how long do I have? I mean, he's looking at me like we should have done this yesterday. And so, yeah, my health called again. And I was falling asleep while I was driving, 70 miles an hour on the highway. Doze off for half a second. That's enough to kill you. I was once again at this crossroads of, doggone it, why is my health the problem? And it's because I still was not prioritizing myself. I'd gone right back after surgery. Humans have amnesia, so we forget. I say that's why people have more than one child, because they forget. So I'm back in my regular life, making sure everybody else's wants, wishes, dreams, and desires are being fulfilled. So I had to make a decision on what to do. And I remember sitting at my dining room table and thinking, I'm selling my soul for over $200,000, and my soul is worth more than that. So making that decision I also had this experience where I was talking to some ladies and we were talking about our dating life, and I said, I meet guys, but they just won't commit. It's like they won't make me a priority. And then I had this aha moment. It was like this, it was almost all of a sudden like I was in the room by myself and they weren't even there. And I said, I don't make myself a priority. And so literally, I left that interaction with so much clarity that I was like, job's about to go, not even interested in talking to you anymore. Like it just, and that was probably the journey of saying things are about to change in my life. And making that type of decision, even though you're fearful, but you're like, I'll go for whatever is on the other side of this because I know what I have now. And me not prioritizing myself, me needing to pay attention to why I'm falling asleep while I'm driving, like all of that, I just made a decision. I was like, this is it, this is how it's gonna go. And so when I tell you the very last day of working, it's August 31st, 2018. September 1st, I slept. And I wasn't falling asleep while I was driving. I slept at night, and it was like, and I remember going to a follow-up appointment, because I was like, consulting all these doctors. I went to a follow-up appointment with a doctor, and he said, Miss Dodd, you look great, you look amazing. He goes like, what changed? I was like, I quit my job. And he says, really? Well, how are you gonna provide for yourself? I said, I'm gonna work my business. And so that is what I set out to do, is work my business, build my dreams. I had dreams, but they were kind of optional. They were kind of, if I get around to it, they were kind of like, oh, I really would like to, but there comes the entree of meeting Tiffany in 2018, in November that year, and learning to tell my story, because as I said, I thought my story was that I had brain surgery, because generally when I say that, people's eyes go. So I learned to tell my story, and my story was that I didn't prioritize myself. Even when I look back to my marriage and ultimately the divorce, I just thought I can make him happy too. Just one more person. I've been making everybody else happy. Add somebody, sure, I can make you happy too. And that didn't work. And so when I think about meeting Tiffany and learning to tell my story, I didn't even know what my story was. Now I do. And I remember her saying, you have to tell your story every day. Like every time you get an opportunity, tell your story. And I started doing that. And when I think about what I've been able to create in my profession, in the world, I just set out when I left my job to put my head down, because pharmacists, we color between the lines, we don't get outside the lines. Put my head down and concentrate on building a consulting practice that I'd already had that personal experience of supporting my parents and advocating for myself. So I knew what I wanted there, but build my consulting practice so that I could pay my bills. That's all I wanted to do. Stay in the box, stay in the lines. But women pharmacists started reaching out to me shortly after I left my job, and they're like, yeah, I hear that you're doing this, you got it, and I just wanted to know, could I talk to you? And so after a while, I was like, who are these people calling me? And I really wanted them to go away, because I was just trying to figure this thing out for myself. Like, I can't help you, I don't know what I'm doing. So I had asking me, women pharmacists, can I get on your calendar? Can I just ask you how you started? And I was thinking, I don't know, but sure. And I remember saying to Tiffany in December of 2018, I'm going to start coaching women pharmacists. And she was like, great, it's good. So we went full circle into 2019, and the first pharmacist reached out to me and says, I'll pay you to coach me. I was like, okay. And literally it was like a back of the napkin kind of like, okay, all right, I'll coach you for 3 months, and I'll teach you this, and this, because I had no curriculum, I had nothing. And I think about the fact that within that first year of coaching, I coached over 50 women pharmacists who had an idea, had a thought, can I possibly do this, a dream. And I was amazed. I remember the day that I woke up and I had 10 coaching clients. I remember the day that I woke up and I had 10 coaching clients. And I remember lying in bed thinking like, this is really serious. And thinking that I not only was building my own business, but now I have my hand in 10 other businesses. Not, they're not my businesses, they're other people's businesses, but I have the fortune of being able to coach and offer guidance to 10 other businesses, 10 other women and what they wanted to put in the world. I'm helping them do that. That was like the most amazing feeling, because it's one thing when you're building your own thing, but it's another when you're helping someone else build their dream. And then January 2019, even in the midst, right before coaching, so I'm kind of going backwards. January 2019, I'm in the Hollywood Hills with Tiffany and some other private clients, and she's at the sink and she's washing dishes because one of her methods when we spend time with her is she serves us, because most of us live lives where we're not served at all. We're doing the serving. She was at the sink and she casually, I kind of like walked into it. She casually said, "Do you love where you live?" And I said, "Yeah, it's okay. I like it. It's where I'm from." And she turned around and she was like, "No, you need to move." And I'll tell you, in that moment, it was like she gave me permission to dream again. I'd been dreaming a little bit, but like that really gave me permission. Like, you need to move. That night, I went to bed and she had given me permission to dream. So I wrote down in my journal all the cities that I love: Nashville, Dallas, Charlotte, Seattle, Portland, all LA, all the places that I'd been to traveling, but I'd been like, oh, I love this place. But never once had I even thought it possible that I could live there. Not because I couldn't, but just I wasn't dreaming that big. So it became quite a monumental journey when she turned around and said, "No, you need to move." And she said, by December. So it's January of 2019. She's like, "You need to move by December." And I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll skate through the holidays and be like, well, it's the holidays, move, next year. And then she turned back around and she goes, "And I know you, move by September 1st. So I actually embarked on moving temporarily across the country to Portland, Oregon. I love that city. Pistachio, my dog, and I headed to Portland with a suitcase. We stayed in an Airbnb. I rented a car and I did business there as well, and created a whole community for myself in Portland. People that I've gone back, I'm like, hey, let's meet for lunch. Hey, I'm in town. People that I keep in touch with that didn't even exist before I was given permission to dream. So after Portland, I came back. I was doing quite a bit of traveling. I came back to Atlanta, and it fast set in again that I'm not inspired there. And she noticed it right away. And we talked about it, and she was like, "You need to move." So now we've upped the ante, because now, going to Portland, 30 days, it was picture postcard weather there. I was there in August of that year. But I just remember my clients would get on Zoom calls with me, my coaching clients, and they were like, "You are glowing," when I was in Portland. So fast forward, I'm back in Atlanta, and Tiffany says, "You're not inspired there." I'm like, "No, I'm not." The next level of dreaming was, you need to move. Not just a temporary move, but move. And I start looking around at my house going, this is impossible. I've been here for, at that time, 17 years, 18 years now, and I've accumulated enough to probably furnish 2 houses. And the fact that I need to move Like that's like moving, like that's like an act of God, an act of Congress. You know, those don't happen very easily. Nonetheless, when they do, they're monumental. And so I remember like talking to trusted friends saying, hey, if I move across country, can you like help me drive? I mean, like, how am I gonna do this? I don't know. And just really, you know, with my friends proverbially walking around like looking at how do I do this? And trusted friends begin saying, just a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. One of the other things that I've been able to decide as I'm slowly walking forward in this journey to moving internationally now, like first of all, it amazes me that I've gone from where can I go live in the country to where can I go live in the world. Like that, so as I watch myself dream, I'm amazed at me because my thinking is getting bigger and bigger, and it almost becomes like it almost that's the joy in, okay, bigger this time, okay, further this time, okay, what can I learn that's outside of what I've already learned? And what I've decided that I want for myself, which I think is coming forward after getting rid of all the stuff, is I want relationships, experiences, and memories. That's what I want more than anything, more than any stuff that I can acquire. So it's not my goal to move out of the country and then replace all the stuff that I've gotten rid of. No, it's my goal to keep it simple and really enjoy where I am, who I'm with. That's what's most important to me now. I hear Tiffany say often that no one's coming to save you. And I really agree with that. I have been amazed at how much I've been able to create myself, even in the midst of a pandemic. And I don't think I'm any different from anyone else who's walked through this pandemic. I've lost family members. I've had, you know, people around me lose jobs. I mean, I've felt it. I've dealt with my own emotions and all of this. I actually think that I suffered a depression in the fourth quarter of 2020, just because I think it just all came to a head. But the thing that I have come to understand is something that she says often, which is no one's coming to save you. And it doesn't mean that you don't have friends and family that are around you, that care for you, that love you. But at the end of the day, I've got to do this thing. And I think for me, that's not a sad statement that no one's coming to save you. Like for me, that's like a catalyst that gives me energy to say, okay, what can I create next? Well, I did a post not too long ago where I said to pharmacists, whatever gap you see in healthcare, go build that. And I think that that's what that statement means to me, is no one's coming to save you. So it's up to me to create, to collaborate, to come up with the next thing, if you will, that I can put into the world. Because in doing that, I do save me, and I also help save others. And so that's one of the things that I hear her say that really resonates with me, and I believe that to be true. The plans now, wow. The plans now are to move internationally to Mexico. That's my first international stop, but my list is growing longer of places that I think I'd like to go next. Even if I come back to the United States after some time, what are those next places? And I'm building my magazine even bigger. Like, this was something that started as a thought, a small dream of wanting to tell the stories of the women that I was coaching. And now it has grown and it's growing to, I meet so many amazing women who are also telling their stories, and I'm building the platform and continuing to expand the magazine platform to continue telling stories. So I can only imagine, where we're going next with that, because that's like my passion project. I continue to think about the people that I'm going to help in the future with coaching, and I can't wait to meet them because I've met some amazing people and worked with some amazing people who have ideas that they didn't even think were possible to put into the world. So I definitely want to do more of that. And I want to continue filling the gap of helping patients who don't have the answers that they want for their health, who don't have the results that they want for their health. I want to continue helping them get to the root cause of why they're experiencing what they're experiencing in their health. And though my goal is to help patients, I ultimately believe that in helping patients, I'm helping families, I'm helping communities, and I'm ultimately adding to what I can contribute to the world.